Business transportation. Trails. Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. I hope you got pizza and donuts and snacks. And if you get hungry during the meeting, just run back and get some more because there's plenty. Thank you. Thank you for coming out. It's really important. I'm Beth Hedengren. I'm the acting chair of our Neighborhood District Board, and I'll be conducting this meeting. I want to recognize first and foremost Rachel Breen in the back, who is the city coordinator for our neighborhood district program. She's so good at keeping us all on track and making sure that we know about everything important that's going on in the city and facilitating everything we do. I really appreciate her. And I also want to welcome Rachel Whipple from the City Council. And we had a turn, excuse my voice. I'm just losing my voice, so I really use the microphone. I want to excuse Travis Hoban, who's our City Council representative, but he's traveling for business and he's like on the airplane right now, so he can't be here. So he asked to be excused. And Justin from City Council is with us and helping us. And we also have back here Caroline, and Valerie, who are from BYU, and they are observing and learning about community projects and helping us with a health project in our community. Okay, I'm to remind you that the ceiling microphones pick up all conversations, and that will go to our Zoom people who are tuning in through Zoom, and welcome to those of you who are on Zoom. We really appreciate your being here. And when you said you prefer not to use microphone, do you mean I can't use it?
So, so the microphones in the ceiling will pick up everything we say. So if you have a loud voice like mine, it's no problem. So you only need the microphone if the people in the room can't hear you, because the people on Zoom are hearing an echo because they're hearing your microphone and the microphone.
Sorry.
So it just depends on how well people in the room can hear. And since you have a rough voice, you'll probably want to use the microphone. But for the other presenters, if you have loud voices, you should be okay without the mic.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to get started right away, and we'll first item on the agenda is a police report on vandalism in our district. We had our church building in Grandview South broken into and quite extensive damage done. We're going to have Mindy report on that damage in a little bit, but first we want to hear from our police officers who patrol our neighborhood and keep us safe, and we're so thankful to them for what they do to keep us safe, and we're thankful to them for being here tonight. Officer Hutchinson, who's our neighborhood officer, and Officer Lefevre, who is an officer with specialty in crimes and vandalism, graffiti. So would you please come and talk to us? On the microphone.
Hey. So I'm Officer Hutchinson. I'm your guys' COP officer in District 4. I cover District 4 as well as District 1. Just for those of you that don't know what all the COP officer for your district entails and what we do, I focus on long-term issues and quality of life issues. So if you have like a frequent issue with a home, with parties or drug homes, things like that, more complex issues that patrol would go out and take care of one time or go respond to frequently to try and kind of put a band-aid on the situation, I try and find more of a long-term solution to be able to help and improve the neighborhood. So that's just a little bit about what I do. This is Detective Lefevre. He specializes in gangs and graffiti, and he'll go into the graffiti side of things. can answer whatever questions you guys have, but I understand that the church up in Grandview was burglarized recently. I spoke to one of our detectives about it. It is an active investigation, so I don't have a lot that I can update you on, but the detectives wanted me to let you know that it is something that is a priority for them and that they're working on the case currently as we go forward. So I'll let Detective Lefevre kind of talk about graffiti real quick. Oh, yeah.
In general, motivates this kind of a crime. This is not the first time this has happened. Have you ever been able to catch anybody to figure out why they did such a stupid thing?
So motivations for crimes tend to range wildly based on person to person and what the suspect has done. A lot of them are crimes of opportunity. So if they see, like, for example, vehicle burgs, if they find that there's a purse left in a car and can see it, it's a crime of opportunity. For something like the church, it's hard to say because it'll just vary from person to person. But
okay. Well, I'm a Detective Lefevre. In September, Chief BB was presented with some information as far as gang issues and graffiti issues in Provo. They've always been issues, but we've never had anybody specifically assigned to them. So September, I was assigned to investigate all the graffiti in town and gang activity. So that's what I've been doing. And I think let me tell you how the process works with graffiti, because I know that it's a quality of life issue that affects us all. It affects our businesses, it affects our home value, all that stuff, right? Just a huge quality of life issue. So when we get a graffiti report, whether that's patrol finds it, or we get an online report, or a citizen calls into dispatch and reports it, a patrol officer will go investigate it, or if I'm working, I'll personally go investigate it. We'll document it. We'll see if we can tie it to anybody. If we can't, it's documented and stored. And then regardless of what outcome, as far as the investigation and suspect information goes, what we do is we refer our graffiti investigations to what's called Teens Against Graffiti. So these youth are in the juvenile justice program. So they're doing community service or things like that. We refer that to them, and then they send a crew out to clean it up. Sometimes they're really fast, depending on who they have on board. Sometimes they take a little while. There's a big PVL graffiti up on the parkway. I'm sure all of you have seen coming in and out of Orem, right? That one, they're taking a minute to clean up. I don't know why. I know that's a concern. I see that complaint multiple times a day. We're trying to get that worked out. So I don't know if it's a paint issue or what. They don't have the chemicals. I know they're waiting for specific chemicals, or they're just sick of me because I send them referrals like crazy lately. So, but that's how it works. They send out the teens to come clean it up. If it's elevated, these are juveniles, so they're not going to risk the juveniles' health or safety to go up on a building, or sometimes bridge suspension can be pretty hard. I know there's a tag at 2230 North on the River Trail. Very aware of that one also. So I'm not sure if they're going to be able to clean that one up, or if we're going to have the parks do it. So we're still, that one's a little trickier because it's elevated from the riverbank, but I'm aware of that one too. So that's how the process works. We're also looking at a new technology to reduce redundancy of graffiti reporting. We run into some issues with if an address is different. Let's say I go down to 600 South and there's graffiti at the bridge at 600 South. And I document it, we log it. Then a patrol officer will get a call at 582 South University Avenue. It's the same call. So a lot of time we're getting these redundancies. And also it's kind of inconvenient to track. It's pretty hard to track because it's pretty visual. So we have the same tag at 600 South and 2230 North. It's pretty cumbersome to work through that. So we're working on new technologies to help us do that, which should expedite investigations, which will help us hopefully catch the perpetrators and get restitution for the city and the employees who work to clean it up. And then ultimately put the onus back on the suspect, right? The big thing with graffiti is, right, the abatement. So we want to get it investigated as fast as we can. We want it cleaned up as fast as we can. And then we want the perpetrator caught as fast as we can so they can start paying that restitution. Because the restitution, whether it's juvenile or adult, kind of puts the responsibility on them, right? If they're juveniles and they go through the juvenile justice system, mom and dad are probably gonna have more vested interest in their activities if they have to pay restitution for kiddo, right? If it's an adult, then that's kind of a bummer to pay restitution for full time too. So that's a big deterrent, right? Problem is catching them. So again, we're working on technologies right now. We're pretty excited about them. Hopefully they come to fruition here in the next little bit. So we'll see hopefully see a huge slowdown in the graffiti. Any questions about graffiti? Go ahead, sir.
Do you have knowledge of how to read the graffiti? I understand taggers will often have to sign it in some sort of way. They have a signature sort of thing.
Yeah, graffiti is pretty interesting. So without getting into the weeds about it too far, you have basically two categories. You have what's called tagging crew graffiti, which is more the artsy, bubbly letters and things like that. And that to them is artwork, right? And there's some controversy on, is it art, is it vandalism, things like that, right? According to Utah state law, it's not your property, it's vandalism, right? And then you have gang graffiti. So I have pretty good training in the realm of differentiating the two. They're very unique in their own styles and things like that. And then there's subcategories that we can break it down into as far as like political or just like activism and things like that. So yeah, we do have training in telling the two. And obviously if it's gang graffiti, we're a little more interested in that because that could be a bigger issue. So.
Do you see much of that? Is it, or is it mostly the other kind?
Yeah, so pretty interesting. I think it's always been around, but since this position was created in September, obviously it's you find what you're looking for. So it's been on my radar extensively. We have a lot of patrol officers specifically looking for it. Comes and goes, gang activities up and down. I would say we're pretty hot on the trail of a lot of our local troublemakers. So hopefully we see it slow down a little bit. But we do all sorts of different kind of investigations, whether that's we monitor social media, we find them in the act, which is pretty tricky. So we're trying just all sorts of different ways to kind of crack down on that.
Did you say what PVS meant?
PVS? PVL.
PVL.
So PVS is in Spanish.
Yeah.
PVL, yeah, stands for Provo Barrio Locos, Provo Town Crazies. They've been around for years and years and years. So we're seeing an uptick, younger generation kind of coming into the game. But again, I think we're pretty hot on their trails too. So.
This is a question for you.
Yeah.
After the break-in and the destruction in the church building, I'm curious to know, have you escalated the security? How can you feel sure that that's not going to happen again? Or can you tell me more about the security in our neighborhood now?
Yeah, so as far as the security in your neighborhood, we always have had officers patrolling, right? Obviously, we have a limited number of officers. And so we can't necessarily have an officer posted at every church or every street corner. We wish we could. As we see upticks in crime, we have a crime analyst that works in our office upstairs, and she helps direct us for extra patrols in certain areas. So as we see an uptick in crime, whether it be graffiti, break-ins, things of that nature, she helps direct us and tell us so that we can focus resources in certain areas, right? So if you guys see a particular uptick in something, then we can have extra patrols in that area and have more officers present there. But that also comes at as we can sort of thing, because obviously if there's a whole bunch of stuff going on and officers can't necessarily break away, we got to handle priority calls that come in through 911 first. But typically we're pretty good about staying on top of it, and these sort of things don't necessarily happen often. And our detectives are pretty good about figuring out who it is and how best to mitigate it in the future, and works with property owners for that, right? As far as the break-in at the church, I haven't heard of any others recently, right? I've only had a handful while I've been here that I'm aware of incidents at church like that, and it tends to be kind of sporadic and just focuses more on less of like a targeted thing and more of somebody just going in to break something. Churches tend to make a good target for that just because they tend to be empty pretty frequently, right? If no one's in there for mutual or things of that nature, young men, young women, they tend to be locked up and empty.
With no news at all about it, have you done it? Have you found the perpetrator? Can you even share any information about it? And can there be some kind of anything done with cameras? Possibility around churches, especially, to keep them safe?
So as far as cameras around the churches, that would be up to the church and how their policies go, right?
You wouldn't tie into you. You guys you don't have any way of observing around town about different incidences with cameras.
We don't have like a closed circuit TV sort of thing, no. That's kind of controversial in the United States, whether or not police departments use it. And a lot of security camera footage that is used around the United States is all privately owned, that people have on their own property. And typically we find that organizations are willing to share that footage with us. But that would be more of a thing that would go with the church and figure out on whether or not they would like cameras on their property. Because we obviously can't just go install cameras that point at people's property and that document everything that everyone does. People don't typically like when the government does that.
So is it still an ongoing case?
So it is an ongoing case, and it's with our criminal investigative division. So it's a division outside of mine. I checked with the detective. It's an ongoing case, and he couldn't provide me with a lot of details. So I can't provide you with a lot of details. I don't have access to that report and all the work that's gone into it. They're pretty closed off up there and careful about their active investigations because they don't want things to leak out for people to find stuff out. So.
But nothing anywhere in news anywhere about it. Why is it, do you guys shut it down so no news outlet has any information?
So crimes such as burglaries and people vandalizing churches, although are terrible and impact a community greatly, right? It doesn't typically rise to the point where when a news agency finds out about our caseload, because they can typically see what police respond to, it doesn't typically initiate a lot of questions from them unless it's something major.
Basically.
It depends. It depends on what they're up. Typically the news comes to us and asks us for information for what we want to put out to them. We don't typically go with our information to the news. Just because they have their own things that they want to run and cover.
But since you don't share anything, you don't tell them anything.
We share whatever we can on our social media. And I'm not in charge of that. That's more of a PIO question. I don't know if you have more information about that.
Yeah, so when the news calls, I was PIO last summer. So when the news calls, they ask for information. We can only provide what we can provide as far as the investigation allows us to provide. And then they decide if they want to put that in the news or if they don't have enough information, they'll sit on it and wait. So it's not necessarily that they're not interested. It might just be lack of information on our part that we cannot share.
What initiates the information being given?
So that would be a phone call from the news.
What about a phone call from the news?
To the news? That'd be
No.
between you and the news.
To you guys. Just put it out on your site.
So, I see what you're saying. So typically a lot of our information that's given out to the community comes through people like me or community resource officer, which is why I'm here. Is because Rachel reached out to me and said that she was receiving a lot of comments and concerns from you guys, which is why I'm here. And unfortunately, I wish I had more information to give on it. But like I said, it's an active case. They wouldn't share a lot of information with me, so I don't have a lot of information to share with you. They just wanted me to reiterate again that it is a priority case for them and that they're working on it upstairs.
There's no place on your website to go to see information about what.
No, typically most information that's shared through the PIO goes through our social media or through the news.
Okay.
What happens if somebody is ordered to pay restitution and they don't?
Well, that'd be what the court or judge would decide with.
What typically, I mean, you guys know enough.
So they
Are they sentenced to jail until they
Yeah,
don't
so
pay?
in lieu of, they could be sentenced to jail time, larger fines. Would just depend on what a judge determines, but jail is a strong possibility. Usually they'd issue a warrant for their arrest and then we'd go pick them up.
I just want to put a plug in for how amazing these guys are. I was neighborhood chair. I've been neighborhood chair in Carterville for almost 8 years with the old program. And I lived on one of the most dangerous streets in the entire city. And we found that out through our officers. They gave us that stats. We had more burglaries, we had a murder, we had drugs galore. And we found out that stat and the neighbors clamped down and we're like, we are going to be done with this. We want this street to be safe. And they worked so collaborative with us. We called them all the time. We're like, they're here again. And they worked with us and our street is just peachy keen, clean. There's not ever I had to call the cops on something unrelated and my neighbor's like, what's happening? But we don't ever have the cops on our street anymore. So like they are here to work with us. So like this, I walk around churches all the time at night. If I saw anything suspicious, I am the call log from these guys. I'm not tattling on neighbors. I'm saying if we want a safer community, we have to work collectively with these guys and they will help us clean up our streets. They'll help us clean up our city. So Thank you for all you do.
Thanks. I say this a lot when I get asked a lot of times about like what people feel like they should and shouldn't call for. And my go-to is if it's not a life or death emergency, that we're call our non-emergency line, because we're always more than happy to come out and find out that it's nothing than to find out a day later that it was something and we wish that we were here when someone saw something. So always feel free to give us a call on our
Never call
non-emergency line.
911. I just call a non-emergency and just.
But obviously, if you feel like it's an emergency, call 911. So.
Yeah, the bottom line is, right, if we were to go out right now, we're only 2 sets of eyeballs. We want to work with the neighborhoods and the communities. If you see something, right, collectively, we have more eyeballs together. We want to be part of the community, we want to help the community, and we also need your help to make us more effective.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and please take a picture of this slide and learn that non-emergency number and use that. You know, we do need to have our eyes open, and thank you, Sarah, for sharing that. But we have a responsibility to our neighborhood, and we can help. I forgot to introduce our board. Erin Scablin, Rivergrove, Mel Smith, Grandview North, Sarah A.C. Carterville, Leah Duncan, also Carterville, I'm Grandview South, and Mindy Jefferson, Grandview South, and Eric Chase, North Park. And
I just want to say our newest elected state representative, Lisa Shepherd.
I know, and that was my next step. Lisa Shepherd, please stand up, our newest elected representative. Thanks for coming, really appreciate that. And I'll talk to you later about how these legislative representatives can really help our communities. Marcia Judkins helped us on another thing just now. And so, and I know that Lisa will be just the same way, very responsive and help us. Mindy's going to give us a little report about the damage at the church.
So I'm going to share information as a private citizen. This is not in my role as a member of the neighborhood board. I just happen to be married to the point person who was tasked with interfacing with the police detective and all of the contractors that were sent to the Brown Church in Grandview South neighborhood. So the break-in occurred sometime around 2 a.m. on Sunday. We know that because there was a key fob record, but apparently lots of things can trigger that as well. So the fob was not registered within the Grandview South stake. And so there's really nothing that can be done to trace it. And again, it could have been picking up something on the vandal's body, but we suspect it happened around 2 a.m. The individual or group of individuals threw at least one rock, maybe more, I don't have the details on that, into the west primary room window. So they broke the window, got in there, they pulled art off in the wall in the hallway, then likely went to the, I'm going to tell you what is my guess for the order of events, but I don't know for certain. But the large women's restroom on the west side, they attempted to flood that. Thankfully, there was a floor drain, so it really did nothing. The contractor was there, you know, hours later, checked all the drains, everything looked good. The Relief Society room, very, very sad in my personal opinion. They tore a lot of art off the wall and smashed as much glass as possible. They used something to try to break the TV, which also dented the piano. So the piano is functional. They did something to try to bash the AV system on the stage. Hilariously, the key to unlock the panel that they were bashing was just right there on the corner. They tried to push one of the rear pews, maybe to try to get all the pews to knock over. I don't know, that's just my personal guess, but they did try to push the rear pew. So you'll see, like this past Sunday, there would have been signage saying, do not sit on this second to last pew. The organ, the center of the console, so 3 keyboards, this whole center section totally smashed. And then the phone, in the East Bishop's hallway was torn off the wall as perhaps they were leaving the building. So that, these are all things that I either saw with my own eyes or got to receive a little bit of information because I was next to the person who was the point person for all of the cleanup.
Thank you.
I'm happy to talk afterwards.
Do you have questions for Mindy? Thank you. Curious. And so Mindy said she'd share what she knows, and it's heartbreaking. You feel violated always. Our next topic of discussion is safety at the State Street intersection. We had a tragic accident at State Street and 1700 North by Excel Eyewear. And a member of our community was killed in that car crash. And so that's very sad. And so as soon as we heard about it, I thought, well, what can I do to improve the safety here? We thought and we talked about this board. And we decided to, I first went to the city traffic people, roads people, and they said, no, we have nothing to do with State Street. It's a state highway. So then I tried to get a meeting with UDOT and not much luck there until someone said, call Marcia because the legislature's in charge of Utah. So I called Marcia Jenkins, and within a couple hours, she had a meeting arranged for us. And she wrote an email and said, you know, I'm available these 3 times. What time can you meet? And I said, oh, we can do this time. And so just Monday, Mel and Aaron and I went and met with UDOT. And please, Mel and Aaron, jump in and help me with this. And they were very helpful and very concerned and wanted to do what they could. I was surprised. There were maybe, how many, 14 maybe people there?
Total, yeah.
Yeah. And Marcia Jenkins came and sat with us there and advocated us for the safety of that street. They sent us crash data on it in preparation for the meeting. It was raw data and it was a little hard to interpret. Mel, would you like to speak to that? Did you?
Okay, well, so we filtered out as much of the data as we could to make it a little more readable. They have a legend of what are the accident types, 5 being fatal and then on down, 4 being, I think it's that personal injury, and then 3 possible injury all the way down to number 1, which is just property damage. And from looking at that data, they didn't have all of the 2024 data in there yet, but we had 2 fatal accidents from 2021 on, and I just heard that there was a fatal accident on 800. Let's see, on 5th West and 800 North here about 3 weeks ago involving a motorcycle. But at any rate, for this area right here, we had those 2, and then we had probably, I don't know, 15 or 20 of the level 4 accidents just in that stretch alone. And I didn't go beyond that. I'm sure 3. I was more interested in the 4s and the 5s. So I mean, that's. I guess that's not a lot by some people's reckoning, but it's way too many.
David Davies, not that long ago, was killed at the very same intersection, the same situation.
Yeah, I think that was one of them.
Yeah.
So are people just going down the State Street too fast and not stopping at the lights or what's?
Yeah, and one of the first things that we discussed that they brought up is they said, people are not stopping at stoplights, you know, just all over. They are not stopping at stoplights. And so they wanted me to let you know, that's really important. Stop at stoplights.
In all the years I've been here, about 40 something, that light has never had a controlled left turn. It's always a flashing.
Right.
And so you get long lines of impatient people trying to turn left.
So I actually tested this out and it does do what they call a protected green. So it stays green if there are 4 or 5 cars stacked up.
Particular time of day it does it?
And that might, it may be, I know that there are controls for different times of the day. But I saw that happen. But by far and away, 1 or 2 cars, you'll always get the flashing yellow. Which I think was unfortunate with this last accident where I think the fellow turned. He had the yellow light, but he turned in front of somebody.
Miss,
And-
no, we've all done it, you know, it's hard to judge how fast people are coming. And
And it's
they
3
would-
lanes,
they
and it's
would-
3 lanes of traffic.
Yeah, there's 3 lanes of traffic, hard to see it all. The officer that from the police, Lieutenant somebody, I can't remember his name, said it's an ongoing investigation, we can't talk to that particular accident. So we said, yeah, sure, we just want this intersection to be safe. So we discussed a lot of things. They gave us, we were there an hour and 15 minutes. And they knocked around all kinds of ideas. They were very good. And go ahead.
They're conducting 2 studies. They came up with a number of things that we might do to address the problem. But they've started 2 studies. And I exchanged an email with Vern.
Oh, good.
Vern Kiesler from the city, who was at the meeting as well. And I exchanged an email with him about something else yesterday. And Vern said that those 2 studies should be finished by December.
Oh,
So they're moving December's next month, so they're moving very
that's
quickly. And I was really impressed that the UDOT region chief had driven before our meeting. He had gone to the trouble of driving down there and driving through the intersection to kind of see it for himself. So I was really impressed with their response.
Yeah.
2 of the things that we talked about was a protected green turn, particularly at maybe more heavily heavy traffic times. And the other one was they said one of the things they could do fairly soon if it proved to be something they want to do is to put, you've probably seen on top of semaphores that they will sometimes have 2 red lights instead of just 1. And that was another thing that they say could potentially help.
I bet they'll do that one. We had a near fatal crash on 3rd North on State Street a couple of years ago that I took up with UDOT, and they sent people out and we talked through the various solutions. And now there are 2 red lights at the top to bring attention.
So one of the other issues that we brought up was the egress and ingress going into that market that is right south of that intersection. I mean, that's a scary proposition if you're coming from any direction.
Especially with the
actually.
car wash, you get a lot of.
Car wash and the rancho market and so forth, where people, I mean, I've done this, right? I'm coming from Grandview, turning right. And then
3 lanes of
cross
traffic.
3 lanes of traffic to get over to the left. That's a scary proposition. And then people coming out of there, turning right and left. Whoa, so anyway, we talked about that as well.
Yeah, Bob?
If they're coming that direction, north from State Street, I come along there and because people are waiting in the turn lane to turn into Rancho Market, all the way back to the light, there's no way I can turn left, the left
There's
turn
no-
lane is full of people
That's a
turning the other
good
way.
point, yeah.
So sometimes you'll go to pull in and someone else is pulling in and you realize you have to go around each other
Yeah.
like that.
That's why they call it suicide lane.
I think it's unusual to have 2 places like that so close to an
I know, yeah.
That's too close to the intersection.
And we talked about that and they.
If you look at the striping along there, it's actually double lines. You're not supposed to
You're
do
not
that.
allowed to turn left
But
here.
I know everybody does.
Get in there then.
And we talked about maybe putting, egress from, the Maverick here.
Yeah, that
Making it
spare
so you would
property.
turn into Maverick and then get into this.
And maybe a no left turn out of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I know,
Usually when we go there, we go up and down the backside of those buildings.
Yeah, right, through the potholes and everything.
Yeah.
Vern had a brilliant idea. It'll take you a minute longer to do it though, but he said, go straight across here, go all the way here to the roundabout. Turn right, come down here. Where does it come out? By the Rivergrove?
DI.
It's by DI.
Yeah, and then come here, and then you can turn right. But you'll be safe.
UDOT is very happy, seems to be, to put islands in the middle. They've done it on Bulldog.
And we talked about that.
West, they've done it on Third South.
Yeah.
Just put an island there, that'll stop the left turners.
It'll just change the U-turns to happen all in front of Maverick,
Yep.
which is a little safer place to do a U-turn, but. Yeah, no, I was there when they put in the Rancho application about 10 years ago to expand, and then when they did the Quick Quack car wash and then the event center. And every time they packed more cars into that, they started changing the traffic patterns within the parking lot. Like Quick Quack's like, you can't use half this lot because we're doing our, and every time they add more to that, it just snarls the traffic. Can the city go in and say, you as a property owner, you have to create another egress? Cause like who owns that dead lot right there?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, there is
Who
an
owns
empty lot or something in the middle.
Yeah. If it's owned by the same people, then I feel like the city should have those owners put in a new egress, cause they have way too much traffic on that property too. Yeah, it's just over the years gotten crazy. It's so
And
unsafe.
especially with the quick.
Yeah.
So-
the quick one. Mhm.
So I think what I hear Sarah saying is we might want to at some point follow up with the city and say, yes, that intersection is a UDOT problem, but this access to the strip mall is a city problem. What can we do about
Cause
it?
they have 3 major uses, so each use has to have a certain amount of parking space, like a grocery store. Yeah, I'm lecturing. Yeah, so the grocery store by itself should be using half that lot, just by the parking minimums. Quick Quack the same way, and the event center. So I think what they're doing is they're overlapping parking restrictions. Cause that is like the most snarled parking lot in the city.
Make this part of the parking lot. Okay, two more comments, then we have to move on.
Right, one more problem that I faced, coming down the hill, go over, on Grandview Lane, go over to State Street. I've gone across State Street and gotten stuck in State Street because people are backed up all the way from Carterville Road trying to turn left. And the people
Oh, yeah.
coming across.
We've been working on that for a long time, and that's why we have that do not blocks area, that square, and that has helped a lot.
And they also added the lane to turn right.
And a lane to turn right. But the next step, if this remains a problem, Bird's going to put a knee in there, so you can't turn left.
It's not a very long detour. Those people can easily go up to, what is it?
Exactly, that's what Bird
The
says.
state gas station and come back to
Yeah.
Carterville Road and get in there.
Yeah, Rachel.
We just have a comment online saying that, going back to the State Street, we need a protected green light at all times of day because they've witnessed multiple accidents.
All right, now here's the 4th thing that we came up with at the end of the meeting. To emphasize the signal, make the double red. Reduce and or oppose the speed limit. We talked about changing the speed limit at the top of the hill to 35. So that, and putting a sign there, which maybe some people would see that and put their foot on the brake as they came downhill.
You're going downhill.
Yes, I know.
And install the protected left turn arrow, which is my personal favorite, at all times of the day. Now, what UDOT people said, if we do that, we're gonna have so many people saying that they hate us for doing it, because then they have to wait for their turn, even when there's no traffic. And I said, yeah, but that'll be safe. Oh, Eric.
I looked at the data you sent too, and just so you guys know, I don't know if anybody's ever worked in like industry before where you have safety concerns, but one of the things you do if you actually care about safety is you treat near misses as if they were an accident. So you have opportunity to make things safer for your employees or your workers or whoever. That's how even other departments in the city do it. That's how the police does it. That's how the public works does it besides the roads. And looking at the data they sent in this section, just on the map, or a little bit bigger, for the past 10 years or whatever, there were 700 accidents in this section on all the different severities. And you know, a difference between a 1 on their scale and a 5 is a lot of times just luck. So there's, you know, an accident or two every week on this section that could potentially be.
It wasn't that long ago, Facebook post shows a car rolling there by.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they can say they'll get angry letters, but that's about the level of safety we wanna accept on our roads. Cause this road is so wide, cause it's 7 lanes wide and it has street parking on both sides. It's as wide as a freeway, so people are gonna drive freeway speeds on it.
They
So
said you can, don't try this, but they said you can land an airplane on State Street.
It's big enough. Also, I asked about installing an advanced warning sign before the signal, but evidently the only way you can do that is if it's been like 3 miles between signals or something like that, so people weren't expecting it. Rachel, but they said they look into it.
Okay, just for reference, I had a resident complain about the green arrows on University Avenue, which is also a UDOT road, and I contacted UDOT and they said because of the number of pedestrians and UVX, they are keeping every single one green arrows. So they are doing green arrows on University Avenue. That's already a precedent. And then we
need them on State Street.
Right, and then another comment online, what about a curb that forces people to go down and come back on the right side of State? A curb that won't allow southbound to turn into the parking lot.
Right,
yeah.
right. That would be that median, and I think that we'll follow up on that. We'll work on that. Okay, and I think we've got to move on. Our time is moving right along, but this is an important thing. And it's an intersection that those of us that live in this district we cannot not use that intersection. My husband tries not to go there, but it's really hard. You have to go all around. Now we have the community garden in North Park neighborhood. Hillary Whitaker will tell us about the community garden. We had a service project there just this Saturday.
Hello, so my name is Hillary Whitaker, and I work at Community Action Services and Food Bank. For those of you who don't know where that is, we're just south of the Front Runner Station in Provo. A little bit about Community Action. We're a nonprofit organization that was established in 1967. We provide a 2-step process to solving poverty. We have many resources to help stabilize members of the community who are facing hardships and then help them rebuild their lives. One of our programs is having community gardens throughout Provo, and we charge a small fee of $20 to rent the plot for the year. We then just use that money to help with replacing tools or irrigation lines, things like that. One of the gardens that we have is in the North Park neighborhood. That garden was established before I was a part of Community Action. When I was asked to manage the gardens in 2020, the program had kind of fizzled out to almost nothing. During the pandemic, people kind of stopped growing things for some reason. I don't know. I know it was kind of weird. I think maybe just in our programs, our clients were not getting access to it as well. So over the last couple of years, we've managed to get grow boxes built. We've built a shed, and we're really trying to work to make it a space that can be enjoyed by the community. We had most of our plots filled by students, families, and individuals from many different backgrounds, and most of them live close to the garden and just don't have space to grow their own food. Any plots that were forfeited or if there were unused space, we filled those with plants to give back into the food bank. So we have had some challenges in the garden. And so we are coming to the group and seeing what we can do to kind of get some support with our gardens. So we have grow boxes that are falling apart. We have space to build more grow boxes. One of our biggest issues is we have a fence that's along an apartment complex that we've just had some not fights, but just some pushback, I guess. If there's some weeds that grow up the fence or if there's any dirt that gets on there, the person who owns that apartment complex will go over and just spray it with weed killer. And so we are trying to figure out what we can do to help keep a good relationship because we do know how important this project is to our clients and to people in the community. And so yeah, we're trying to find some different solutions and seeing if we can get some groups together. Replacing irrigation is always important. We try our best to be water wise. And so we do have some breaks that we need to replace over the course of time. Until earlier this year, it was just myself managing the gardens, and I'm only hired for 10 hours a week. The rest of my time, I manage another grant. This year, we were able to bring on a couple of AmeriCorps members to help in the gardens, but it's a big project. And again, we just know how important it is to the community and to the neighborhood. And so, yeah, we're trying to just see what we can do on bringing groups together and helping out. We had Aaron with the BYU civic engineer. Civic engagement. That was a different one. So we had them come out and help us in the gardens last Saturday, and it was incredible just to have so many people there. And we did have gardeners that stopped by, and we had just people in the neighborhood and stuff. And so it's really important to keep this in the community and trying to figure out ways to keep it going.
How far west is it?
So this
700. Is this,
yes.
This is right on 800 North, or is it behind?
No, right on it.
It's right on. Okay.
Yeah, let's see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a big tree that's kind of, yeah. It's we have space to add in a lot more grow boxes. We do have some people who still grow straight in the ground because that's how I have one of my he's a refugee, and so he prefers to do like tilling irrigation type stuff, and so I just let him do his thing because it's a space for us all to learn and grow together. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I have a question here. Are people specifically given a plot that they can do, and do you tell them, hey, maybe you should grow this, that, or the other, or do you just let them do whatever they want to do?
We let them do whatever they want to do. I only have 2 things that you can't grow in my gardens, and they both start with M. So the first one is mint, and I bet you can guess what the other one is. So yeah, so we don't allow me to plant that. No. So yeah, so we don't allow those 2 things, but we give them the ability, the space. We provide tools. We have seeds. This summer we got a massive donation from Olson's Greenhouse in Spanish Fort Payson area. And so not only were we able to help provide plants to all of them, but we were able to also bring out pallets of plants for anybody going through the food bank to also take plants to go home and grow with. So yeah, we just try to provide as much as possible. Thank you.
Okay, now we're at the moment when I get to tell about what we've been working on on your behalf. We have these meetings quarterly. Is it quarterly, Rachel?
Yes.
quarterly, but you know, all the time in between, we're trying to represent you. And please contact us with any concerns you have. It's really important. Okay, here's our projects that we've been working on. The community gardens, we joined in with Erin's group and helped out with that. Andy took her family, and I don't know how many others and helped with that.
Do we have any accounting of how many volunteer hours were?
Oh, yeah, we're
No?
Mindy's doing that, yeah, and we get volunteer hours, which adds up. If we get so many hours,
500.
500 hours, then we can get a matching grant. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Next. The city paid for me to go to this cool conference that was here in Provo, Connected Communities. And it was a combination of several different organizations that are working for people to be more active and for connecting the communities through activity. And so these are some of the cool things that I learned. UDOT's working on a trail network that will be separate from roads, that will connect communities, and it won't even be on a road at all. And you can like go to Springville on a trail. I don't know, but they're trying to connect communities. And this coming year, they're going to have focus groups trying to determine where they should put them. And then starting in 26, they'll be constructing them. And it sounds great, you know, where you could walk or roll in whatever way you want. So that's really great. I've seen that in Europe a lot, that towns are connected by paths. I learned about some grants that maybe we can get in order to help our community, our neighborhoods. So we'll just wait for more information on that. We're working on that. And this was a fun presentation about healthy human connections through nature. And he said, let's encourage children to spend more time outside. He said children only spend like 7 minutes a day outside, which I just can't even imagine. But he said some schools encourage children to walk or bike to school by dismissing the walkers 5 minutes early. And I love that idea so much. And I asked my grandson who lives in North Carolina, he said, oh yeah, we do that in high school, and that's why I ride my bike. And so I really want to push for that in our schools. Next. So it was a great opportunity that I got to do that. Thank you, Cindy. Lions Park cleanup. Look for this May, June next spring. We'll be doing that again, but we did last year. And next, move right along here. Future matching grant ideas, we're collecting them, and in the spring we'll have to make a decision where we will get our service hours. And then we'll have $7,500 to spend, and so we could donate some money to the community gardens. We could. We're working on that Carterville path. That's why I'm really interested in grants. It's going to cost lots of money, and we need to do some work on that. But the path from Carterville down to the neighborhood Walmart mall, there's a social path that's developed there that's heavily used, but it's very unsafe. And we'd like the city to put in an actual path with switchbacks and so it's safe. And it would connect Lower Carterville to Upper Carterville. Many good reasons for it. That's where I'm looking for grants. Last meeting, we had a gentleman come and ask us to do a monument, to contribute towards a monument representing indigenous people of Utah. I just found this picture online. It has nothing to do with what we might do. But that's a cool idea. I like that. But we couldn't do it for $7,500. You know, it has to be a group project. Next. And another gentleman came and said, let's put chess tables in North Park. And I love that idea too. So that would be fun. We could probably do that in a minute. And did you guys have any other ideas? What would be cool to do? Rachel.
I just wanted to say real quick. I'm so glad that Hillary could come and talk about the garden. So I help process the matching grants. And I can't tell you how much money we lose because either districts aren't doing a matching grant or their grant is much smaller and it's a use it or lose it each year. We can't bank the money. And so I'm looking for a project that can be a perpetual project every year that we have ready to go. Because let's say we do the chess tables in the park and that's $7,000. We have an extra 500 that we could do without any work on our part, just be, hey, let's give that extra 500 to the community garden or where we can have a backup for any extra funds because we know she's going to use it for sprinkler lines, for replacing wood. It's with that. So I'm trying to set one up for each district. Some of them it's replacing rocks and bark at parks. And she told me about the garden. I thought that would be great. This is also my district I live in, Grandview North, but a great project. So instead of that money just disappearing at the end of the year, I'm sure they could use any funds they could have. So I'm just kind of putting that out there if that's something the board and residents want to do as a backup every year. I love that.
I have an idea. So some of you may be familiar with the pedestrian bridge that's on 900 North across the Provo River. It's the bridge, it's a beautiful bridge, I think, because it's just for people. And the asphalt on the bridge is really uneven. And we had a woman in our neighborhood who was being pushed by her husband across the bridge, but because the asphalt is so uneven, she tipped over on her wheelchair, took a spill. And this brought new awareness to me that that service needs to be redone. I don't know how much it would be. It's asphalt, so it's not nearly as expensive as concrete. But I think we should. I've heard that the city is considering not redoing the bridge, but what's the word? Renovating the bridge, probably the surface mainly, yeah. At some point, but I think even if we don't do it as one of our projects, raising awareness and encouraging the city to do it sooner than later would be good. It would benefit both my neighborhood and Eric's neighborhood and everybody else who wants to walk across.
Especially with the road's gonna be closed next year.
Yeah, that might be another reason. Yeah,
Get that in the minutes.
Yeah.
Possibly painted too. It could be refreshed and look nice. It's an old car bridge.
Yes, yeah. But I kind of like the retro, the old look of it. So I don't want it to be replaced. I just want it to be
I don't want it to be replaced,
renovated.
but if you clean it up.
Yeah, it does need to be cleaned up, yeah.
Just a reminder, are you still taking applications for
Yes. Until the 17th.
Until November 17th, you can still apply to be on this wonderful board. It's so fun. So please consider doing that, and you can find information online.
And we have flyers on the table.
Flyers on the table. And now, do I have something else on here? Oh, public comment. So please, if you have anything at all you want to say. Go ahead.
Do you mind if we take a quick minute and
Yeah,
explain?
for sure, please. I should have had you on the agenda. I didn't know that you had something to say.
We'll just quickly take a minute. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Valerie. This is Carol. We're with BYU's public health program. So we're in the master's program there and we're working on preventative health. We're in the middle of doing a big project with the Utah County Health Department, and they're getting grants they're very specific. So it has to be about chronic health, which is specifically like heart disease and diabetes. So the research that we've done shows us, we actually have very specific data to your district. So those particular chronic health issues target, as you would expect, people over the age of 65. So we're looking for interventions in your neighborhood that would help the health of people over the age of 65. So it's a very specific window, but we've done some research, and the proposal that we are bringing to you, basically, to see if this is something you're interested in playing with or incorporating, is kind of twofold. It's a Let's Go Seniors campaign that would involve a coalition with representatives from, like, someone from your district. We'd have someone from the Provo Rec Center. They have a lot of senior programming there. Someone from My Hometown program, someone from the hospital. It would be a coalition of people who would meet and generate ideas on that specific population. And of district, specific to District 4, but it has further reaching implications. But we only care about your district because that's our assignments. We're here for you, basically. Secondly, and I'm very interested in what you've been talking about with the community gardens and whatnot, because we were proposing that we take some of the funding. They can get up to $20,000 grant money, again, for this target, to take one of your parks or green spaces and make it very senior friendly. So that would involve an improved walking path, lighting, seating, and they actually have, some of you may be familiar, but they have outdoor exercise equipment targeted for seniors or those with disabilities that would help. There's balance equipment, things like that. So we're not as familiar with your neighborhoods as you are, but some of that money could be used toward improving a park that would be a magnet for seniors to gather. The social determinant of health that we're using is social connectedness, which they actually have a lot of evidence will help with your physical health as well. So we're trying to figure out a way for seniors to gather and gain all the benefits of social connectedness, as well as healthy patterns that will help them avoid those health outcomes. So that was a mouthful, I'm sorry, but do you have any questions or thoughts about that?
So it's a $20,000 grant that you have
Yes.
available?
Up to. Mhm.
Up to.
Yeah, so that's the budget that they're working with, and it has to satisfy that need. Did I miss anything? Do you wanna add? I just did all.
Yeah,
Add
and I
on.
think it's fine. Yeah, and it should be like a continuous program so that everyone can get some time to go outdoors and exercise and stay fit.
Yeah. Again, it needs to prove social connectedness, and it needs to target that audience.
Maybe some targeted benches. I noticed that we went on the trail, that new trail over where the Provo Delta is there. And they had some beautiful benches set along there. I don't know why they had them facing the wrong way, but they did. They had them along.
Very
that path.
antisocial.
But if there were some, like at bus stops or various places that would encourage people to go there, if they have to wait, they can sit down while they're waiting. And things like that could be improve the neighborhood quite a bit.
That's a good idea. But do you guys have, if we were to propose this, and again, it has to get through all the levels of approval, but you're the ones who we care about your opinions. If you were to pick a green space where you would want that, what would you choose?
We have really nice walking trails in the parks at Carterville Park and Lions Park. The neighbors have already put a lot of work into those areas specifically, and some kind of more enhancements.
Carterville Park.
The Grandview area, the Rotary Park is kind of one of those central parks. It has nothing.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have.
No walking path.
Walking path would help there.
I don't know if it's in our neighborhood, but Wilderness Park is horrible. They have this trail that's non-existent around the pond. It's just
Yeah.
really,
Asphalt's going.
It needs
Yep.
some love.
it needs some love as well. The whole thing could be improved dramatically. Wilderness Park.
Is it in your district?
It's not, Wilderness Park, it's not, so we don't care about that.
It's in this district.
Is it?
It's not probably
It is.
was in our
I
district.
think it is.
It needs.
Already in Wilderness Park.
That'd be the question, would you, I mean, it's not enough money to fix a whole park. Would you rather take a park that's already has nice paths and add some equipment to it and have that be kind of the magnet area? The other thing we're hoping to do is coordinate with the Provo Rec Center. They have all these wonderful programs and in the summer, bring them to the park, you know, in a shaded area and do some of those classes, educational classes and also some fitness classes in the summer. And then in the winter, residents can go to the rec center. That's what I was saying, Tai Chi, like an outdoor Tai Chi. Yeah, it would be awesome.
You've heard of the Silver Sneakers program, of
Yes,
course.
yeah, exactly.
Some insurance companies work with them to give passes for free to the rec
Yes.
center.
It's very accessible and they also have a rate for seniors that's very, very low.
Could grant money be used in that way to buy passes for?
To, like, if you would apply to the grant for a pass, possibly, we can put that in the recommendation as well.
Because I think that would be a big draw. Provo Rec Center is a wonderful facility. And
Yes.
it costs money.
It's from the health department.
But the silver sneakers is not that expensive. It's like for the 65 and up.
Depending on,
It's for seniors, it's $4 a day, or I think it's, what is it a year? It's like 200 and something for a couple.
Yeah.
Something. Somebody look
It's
it up.
cheaper if you pay like for a long term than the day. Because it's about $5 a day.
Yeah.
If you're just coming in.
yeah.
Yeah.
But for-
$5 a day.
for-
That's
They love
what they upped it. Yeah.
That would be something like with this, the Let's Go Seniors campaign would involve a website, you know,
Mhm.
something where you could go to and you'd click on the rec center and they would say, use this.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
something
I
like that.
think that would.
Just it would be like a gathering of all the resources that exist already, which there actually are
There's so many things.
We
Because
keep
there's the
finding
free
more.
lunch that you can get. And then there's also the, when I went there, there was several games like the bingo, the ping pong that they have for seniors.
Lots of
So
activities.
There's
they
lots
have
of
there.
activity and there's like 175 classes.
Yeah.
So you can
Yeah.
be very active.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
It's just getting there.
yes, the connecting, and we thought maybe with the park in your actual district and bringing some of this programming out, that would generate just kind of an excitement and awareness and a place for people to come and walk with friends and
Yeah.
I'm wondering about Rotary Park. I know we just had the pickleball courts and the new playground. Is there space there? Because it looks like there's a 55+ community. Other people might know. But the Grandview Farm condominiums, which is right next.
That's true.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Well, that's
Grandview
right
Farm,
next to
yeah.
Rotary Park. So I think you
Yeah.
want to have it
Yeah.
near where there's
Near
a
where there are
55+
people.
Right.
community
Yeah,
and they
that's-
can reasonably.
That's one possibility.
Yeah, so
That's
Rotary
really
Park looks like a good option.
Because it would make sense to have it somewhere there because
Where you know that there is a lot.
the rec center is like on one corner of the whole neighborhood and then up there, there's nothing. So everyone has to come from Carterville or Grandview to come to the rec center, but you'd need to have something at least that's in the center of all neighborhoods.
Very nice.
Just the fact that it's right next to elementary school, I don't know how much more space there is at Rotary Park. Is there space still?
Yes,
Yeah, and without being in the way of the
The
kids.
fields are owned by Provo City, so
It's not-
perhaps.
And they just updated their.
I wanna suggest to,
Yeah, yeah, they will.
if you have trouble finding or working with the parks department, maybe the community garden is a publicly owned space that might be able to.
It'd be,
them to.
yeah, I mean, it could even be like another piece of it, but having like raised boxes or something like
You
that.
don't have to bend over so far.
yeah, that would be an awesome partnership as well.
Yes.
to do
Yeah.
that, like-
8 inches is not high enough. Not for us.
In the middle side for seniors, this high.
And maybe
Like a
get dirt.
trough, sort of a thing with
Yeah.
the legs, and dirt in it.
Oh, you have a raised bottom on it and then put dirt in it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know you're out of time, but someone has.
Just clarification on the rec center. The rec center is separate from the senior programming
Right.
there.
Yes.
The senior programming is $10 a year.
Yes,
And you have access to some classes
at the rec center.
at the rec center, but not a
The rest
full
of it,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
If you want the full thing, then the membership is $200 or something dollars.
Yeah, but the Silver Sneakers program has a lot, because I spoke to Kathy Smith who runs it. And she actually says it actually has a lot of things, and you just pay $10 for the whole year. And the food, that lunch is also included, and so is the ping pong and And the bingo is
Cool.
included in that the 60s. And then they have like spin classes for the seniors and aerobics classes, which they actually have specific classes where the equipment is actually good so that you don't get hurt. And then they also have a swimming program. So if you want to exercise, maybe use like for people that need like physio and all that, they have a swimming program for that. That's for the silver stickers as well.
But it doesn't include full access to
Yes.
everything in the rec
Swimming
center.
pools,
Yes.
courts.
Yeah.
So we don't want to take any more time, but if you think of anyone else that you would want to be included in the coalition, you know, if there are organizations we just may not be aware of because well, you have to live in.
65 and under.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Please, we'll be here if you want to come talk to us after. Sure. Thank you.
We do too. Any other public comments? Rachel.
Okay, so I have one that, let me share this. So this came in really quick and I thought it only had to do with District 5, but a teeny tiny corner of North Park is in the downtown zone. So Jeff Knighton, he wants to redo where Bill Harris Music used to be. And it's just been an empty lot forever. So he's trying to build apartments and condos there. He's trying to get something going. But he's wanting to make some changes to the city ordinance, increasing building height in the downtown zone. Right now, the current height limit is 100 feet. It can go anywhere up to 180 with this. It's kind of based on how many for sale units you have, the taller it can be. So if it's apartments, it's like 100 feet. But if it's condos, then it can go up to 180 feet. And it'll also decrease the number of the size of the individual units from 800 square feet to 600 square feet. Mostly just affecting downtown, but one building in North Park will be affected if this passes. It's that Circus Tricks, the old BYU women's gym, because it has to front University Avenue and it has to be in the downtown zone. So that's the only plot of land in your district that could be affected by this. And I did double check and that women's gym is not on the historical register.
Oh.
It should be, but the owners of the property do not want it to be. I did verify. And so this is just a heads up. I'm not saying that this might happen. This may never affect that building, but if this passes, it could be on it. It is going to the Planning Commission on November 13th and the City Council on December 3rd. I do have physical copies of the staff report. So like Eric, if you want to look at it, it's kind of convoluted, the code. But if you want to look at it, if you want to see what changes might happen to downtown or happen to that building, maybe right now we're thinking it's only gonna affect the Bill Harris music property. But just a heads up, yes.
Do you know how tall the courthouse is?
Ooh, I do not know how tall that
That's over 100 feet. I know the hospital is about 200 feet tall.
Okay.
So this is already, even if someone built a big giant building, it would be not even the biggest.
It was, yeah, okay, that's a good point.
We're talking skyscrapers. I mean, the hospital is huge compared to everything else.
Right.
But the courthouse is pretty close to that too, and that's
But it's
the
set
same,
back.
the same scale.
It's set back.
Right.
It's on Freedom.
And so
courthouse, you're right. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and so the city is trying to encourage developers to do more home ownership instead of all rentals. So I think this was kind of their thing. We'll let you build taller if some of these are for
The
sale.
courthouse is underneath.
I have a problem though with the square footage because that is not an owner occupancy type of situation. 600 square feet, that's as long as there's like, but we can't legally restrict somebody's use of their property. But even if they sell it to individual owners, those are gonna turn into rentals, which is fine, we just have to acknowledge that they're gonna turn into rentals at 600 square feet.
Right, and it's supposed to be, you would understand it more than I would on this, but it's like an average of 600 square feet. And it has to like
200 square foot units.
Yeah, so I hope
I've seen that, I've been in all the meetings in the city for the last 15 years dealing with this square footage thing, and it's the argument of bigger units bring in families, smaller units bring in riffraff in the fight, but I'm just saying, oh my gosh, 180-foot condo units with 600 square foot units. We just have to be aware of what we're getting into. Like, I personally am very developer friendly, but we need to understand what that's gonna do to the demographic.
People off the streets, like little tiny houses.
I love little, 600 square feet is awesome, but what it does, it turns downtown into a bunch of rented sardines.
Right, so I have more information here if you're interested. I just wanted to make sure you were aware, because I didn't realize it hit that one property in this district. So I have these back here.
Rachel, thank you. She's always looking out for us. Carol.
I don't mean to make your meeting, but we're out walking a lot. We noticed there is now a flashing pedestrian signal right at Jordan and 1460. Was that you?
I didn't know, but well, we brought it to Vern's attention. He's over the roads in Provo City. And he said, I'm gonna look after that intersection, and
As the cars come up, you can't see them if you're crossing. And
so he put in these pylons that make it more visible.
On the sign that says pedestrian.
It's Jordan and 1460.
I couldn't hear that part.
Jordan and 1460.
It was a citizen concern that initiated the process that Beth followed
I
up
think
on.
that's such a great improvement. And Beth, I had one more question. I noticed they've taken down a playground in that old Grandview school area. Do you know what
Both playgrounds.
what they're gonna do
That's
there? or-
Provo School District.
School district.
Provo School District owns that property. Since there's no school there, they did not want the liability of having a playground there. So they took both playgrounds out, and there are no plans right now to replace it with anything.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I went to the meeting about what to do with the Dixon property. And so they had all these ideas, and I said, but what about Grandview? How many years it's been? And so that, I'm sorry they took out the school bus.
Maybe an elementary school would be good there. You know?
Yeah. And we're getting more children on that. Thank you so much for coming. Are there any other comments? Lisa, if you want to have me on your, have you on my email list or your contact information, just go to Lisa. It's pretty easy because we're District 61, lisa@lisa61.com.
We can't hear you.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
sorry. Email me at lisa61.com. We're House District 61. Please email me at lisa61.com. And then I can have you on my list. Yeah, that's my email address. I don't have my state one yet, so you can reach me on that one. Thank you. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for coming. Okay.
So any other comments? Just a reminder of our next meetings. We have the all districts meeting with Mayor Michelle Kafusi and the Provo City Department Heads on February 5th. And then our next neighborhood District 4 meeting isn't until March 5th. And it'll actually be in the council chambers because police department beat me to reserving this room. I usually beat them and I rub it in every year, and they beat me this time.
We get to sit up on
So you get to sit up on the stand. So we'll have half our meetings in the council chambers and half of them in here for next year.
But that's a big room. I'd rather be here. All right. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for being engaged and involved in your community. Thank you.